I Hate Politics is a podcast about a human activity we love to hate. I'm Sunil Dasgupta. Montgomery County Public Schools is embarked on a project to reorganize its magnet programs. These are programs meant to serve smaller cohorts of students with enriched curriculum and opportunities that allow accelerated learning. They have proposed 6 regions, each of which would have 5 magnet programs in fields like science and math, biomedical, public service and leadership, fine arts. Further, there would be 14 pathways based on whether these programs are test based or choice based. As MCPS tries this organization, it is also doing boundary studies that will move students across the new regions they are creating. And there has been criticism that the reorganization is half baked, and what will happen instead is a dilution of the idea of the magnet school itself. 3 or 4 elective courses, one offered each year, and then a label slapped on them. Given the plans as they stand now and the public criticism, I thought it would be a good idea to find out how successful magnet programs in MCPS actually worked. And fortunately, the longtime coordinators of the 2 marquee science and math programs in MCPS agreed to join the show. Eileen Steinkraus joined the Blair Math Science program as a teacher in the 2nd year of its existence, 1986. And she became the coordinator of the program in 1992 and stayed in that position until 2006 when she retired. Mark Curran also started as a teacher in Blair Math Science in 1986, and he became the founding coordinator of the new Poolsville Science Math Computer Science program in 2006 and retired from there in 2018. You will hear a lot of history in this episode. The first MCPS magnet program was Blair High School Math Science, which was set up in 1985 to keep white families in the school. The program was supported with federal desegregation dollars and was seen in MCPS as an alternative to busing kids across the district like, say, Boston was doing. The Blair Math Science Magnet became a star and a model, covered by the New York Times, its students routinely landing top college placements, merit scholarships, winning national and international science competitions. Elsewhere, MCPS may have struggled with 50% reading scores for 3rd graders. A few classrooms away from the Blair Magnet classrooms, other Blair students were struggling, and a few miles away, other schools seemed unable to get much right. But Blair Science and Math became an island of excellence, and the model was envied and copied. Blair itself added a humanities program called Communication Arts. Then MCPS added an international baccalaureate program at Richard Montgomery High School for much the same reasons, to use the power of a magnet program to keep white and, as it turned out, Asian families in the school. Einstein High School added the Visual Arts Center, which became one of the best high school fine arts programs in the nation. And then at Poolsville High School in 2006, they started a 2nd math science magnet program thanks to Mark Curran. Poolsville High School has long teetered on the verge of closure due to low enrollment, in part imposed by the county's decision to create a no new development agricultural reserve in western Montgomery. They already had a global ecology program and would go on to add a global humanities program. The trend would go to middle schools with magnets at Eastern and Roberto Clemente. While magnet programs initially had to go out and recruit students, their burgeoning reputation led to greater demand for them than there were seats. And while MCPS provided transportation, I have personally known families driving from Germantown to Blair and from Wheaton to Poolsville. As much as Montgomery County does not like busing, we love our crosstown magnets. This demand for more magnet programs is the stated reason for MCPS wanting to reorganize now into 6 regions and add several more schools. Think of this as increasing geographical diversity or access. The reorganization serves another diversity goal. The marquee magnet programs have used testing to narrow the field of applicants. Einstein's visual arts program uses a portfolio, no less onerous, by the way. And because we know that most testing and portfolio building is correlated with family wealth, white and Asian students from wealthier families disproportionately enrolled in the programs. This raised questions about racial access as well. Moving to a regional model where there would be magnet programs in the less wealthy, less white, less Asian parts of Montgomery County, the reorganization would theoretically include more Black and brown students. I say theoretically because the current magnet reorganization plans do not formally include race criterion for access to the new programs. But going from 2 to 5 top-notch science and math programs, or from 1 significant IB to 5, or even 5 fine art centers is going to require staffing and higher level of funding, and most importantly, curricular autonomy, which according to Stein, Krause, and Curran was critical to the success of their programs. They also received extra money for things like analytical chemistry labs and for participation in national science competitions. High school magnets have 8 periods, a longer school day from the rest of the school district. How will that be scaled given the school district's contract with the teachers' union, MCEA? The plan says that teachers will get stipends. But how many of them will get stipends? Indeed, how many teachers will be dedicated to the new magnets? If you are interested in the future of MCPS enriched programming, this history is for you. Stay with us.
I Hate Politics is brought to you by UMBC's Political Science Program, where you'll learn to shape public policy, impact communities, and function at the center of modern society. Learn more at shadygrove.umbc.edu.
You save yourself, but don't let me go, don't let me go.
I Hate Politics is a podcast about our neighborhoods, workplaces, schools and streets, and our local governments as they function in diverse and democratic societies. This means our politics are messy, dirty, sometimes corrupt, with often self-serving politicians. But no matter how much we may hate politics, we are never exempt from it, even when we refuse to participate. In fact, the purpose of politics is to keep society functioning, precisely when we don't agree with each other, like now. Music for this episode comes from Drew Pictures and the Lead Extras, an indie pop rock band based in Rockville, Maryland. Andrew Glore on vocals and keys, Brian Wolf on guitar, and Josh Wilson on drums. The songs come from their album Cats on Santorini. You can find their music at drewpicturesmusic.com. Eileen Stein-Krause, Mark Curran, welcome to I Hate Politics.
Thank you for having us.
Well, thanks for the invitation.
Montgomery County Public Schools, where you worked for decades, is launched on a reorganization of its magnet programs. Many of the programs that used to exist, such as Blair Math and Science Program, the Poolsville Math and Science Program, are going to go from being county-wide programs to being regional programs that serve that particular region where Blair and Poolsville are. How do you think recruitment of students is going to be affected as a result of going from county-wide to regional?
In the very beginning, was very difficult to get any students to apply to Blair because of the reputation of the community and the school. So we had to do a lot of outreach into middle schools and so on to get to kids to be interested. I don't know how people will feel about this. The students will feel. I don't know.
Mark?
Well, at Poolsville, we came out there to create an upper level classes all the way around, and the selection process was rigorous. The students at the time, they tested, and they were divided by the county. Some students could go to Blair, some people could come to Poolsville, and it was an all-day process to look at, after the testing, to look at the students, look at the teacher recommendations for each student, and then make the decision, well, is this a good fit for science math? It worked the same for global, and it worked the same for humanities. I think that there's going to be a watering down of the student that might take those courses. I'm very concerned about the level of math that that each region will be able to offer.
Why do you think that's going to happen? By and large, the superintendent and even lots of parents, especially parents whose kids miss getting into the magnet programs, say that there is a large number of students that remain outside who are nevertheless as capable as those that were selected.
The math was crucial in all of the courses that we offered that were different from the AP classes, that they could get at most other high schools. When everybody in 7th grade was getting geometry all of a sudden, and algebra was moved down, those very crucial skills were missing, in my opinion, and in our math department's opinion.
One of the consequences of testing and selection in this way has been that magnet programs in MCPS and elsewhere have been unrepresentative racially, for instance. Very few Black and Latino students. Did that concern you in that moment? And what did you do?
Part of the mandate for us being at Blair was to create a cutting-edge program to stabilize the community school. We wanted any kid who fit that mold. The kids that first came to the magnet took a risk. After the program had been there a couple of years, we had outreach into middle schools. We had a community program where we had people come in the evening, and we taught them how to use computers. And we tried to do that in different communities, going to like the community center in Silver Spring and other areas that had underrepresented students coming to our program. We actually had some of our students go to Black churches. One of our graduates, Samir Paul, had a program where he was outreaching into elementary schools and having almost like a Saturday school where the kids would come and hone their math skills. Kids who are really interested in it but didn't have the support at home. We had a big effort as far as females concerned. We did a conference called Females in Science and Technology for over 20 years. We had like 250 girls, 270 girls from middle schools, 7th and 8th grade, come to Blair on a Saturday. They went to sessions, hands-on sessions, robotics, all kinds of things run by our girls and teachers. They had a luncheon then, and a female scientist spoke to them. We did try a lot of that. We often had 50% female applicant acceptance, but then the girls decided not to come. The same with some of the other ethnic groups decided to go to a private school rather than come to a big school like Blair because they thought their student would get better care.
So you recruited among non-whites, non-Asian groups, and even among girls, but they didn't actually come.
Well, it got better and better, but we still would have, girls whose parents didn't want them to come to Blair.
Poolsville, we were the opposite. We brought a very diverse population into a predominantly white farming community. All three programs did.
When you say you bought in diverse groups, was it mainly Asians or was it also Latinos and blacks?
It was all three, not in great numbers because we're half the size. We were only bringing in 50 kids per class. The selection process was blind. We saw the kids' scores, we saw the kids' recommendations, their letters of why they wanted to come.
When we had fewer students apply, we would put them in the Blair Auditorium, have a beach ball. If you only have this beach ball, how are you going to determine the volume of this auditorium? And then we would look at their thinking process. We used to also have the kids write an essay at the time of testing, not from home. So if you could compare their essay written at home, they wanted to emulate the life of Montgomery Blair. At the time of testing, they could write, I hate math and science. My mother made me take this test. Please don't pick me. So, you had all kinds of things to look at. In the last couple of years at Blair, obviously I'm not there anymore, but the county has made the selection.
I have heard said that as a result of the changes now being planned, that the programs are going to become smaller. And as a consequence of that, some of the higher level coursework would not be offered because there wouldn't be enough students for them. Do you think there's any truth to that?
Absolutely. You have to have so many students to take the course for the course to run. I was asked back in, I think, 1992 to do a Zoom on a fiber optic cable. There was one at Blair and one at Poolesville. They wanted to offer advanced courses at Poolesville when it was a middle high school. It was a middle school and a high school. And they had a TV room, and I was asked to teach material science. That was one of my upper level courses in the engineering phase. And they wanted me to teach it at Poolesville High School. Through the fiber optics, there was a camera that followed me around. There were TV sets all over the place. But at the time, it was to put together, an advanced course for a place that couldn't offer them because there weren't enough students. And my classes at Blair at the time were 25 or 30. And I think out at Poolesville, we started with 18, and that dwindled as soon as the requirements came.
In the beginning, we were allowed to offer elective courses with fewer students. But as money becomes tight in the county and so on, then they have a certain number of students you have to have the course run.
But I think what MCPS is saying, and I think what parents that want this change are saying, is that going from a county-wide program to a regional program is not going to diminish either the number of students or the quality of students.
I disagree. The pool is pretty huge, but the dynamics of the program, having a series of projects and problems in a sequence in 9th, then 10th, then 11th, leading to a independent research project in the 12th grade, many students are not going to be successful in that environment because they don't have the continuity of the program of teachers guiding them through how to do presentations, how to work as a team, how to build team members. It took so long to get teachers to open their doors, come into other teachers' classrooms, and collaborate on projects that'll move the student forward.
So the issue really seems to me is not about the courses that can be offered due to student numbers, but rather teacher training, preparation, planning, all those other things. How did you do it?
In the very beginning, we were given time. The program began in September of 85. Dr. Haney and 4 teachers, along with the principal of the school and other people, started meeting in January of 85 to start looking at what program can we do to bring these kids into school. When Mark and I were hired, we were hired in the summer, and we had 20 days to work and learn about the program in the summer before we started in 86.
So those were paid 20 days.
Yes, sir. And for years, we had that summer time. We also had release time during the day. The magnet had 8 periods. That meant when Mark and I were back to back, I taught a concept in neuroscience. They go to his class, and we had a project called Mission Possible, where the kids were planning on going to some place on the earth, like the ocean floor, or maybe going to the moon or Mars, and they did come up with a test that they could do and made a robot and all kinds of stuff. So some days maybe I had all 8 periods I taught because I needed to get these concepts ready, and then the next day they would be 8 with Mark, and the kids would be applying what they learned from me. So we had the ability to block things out and to change things depending on what we were teaching, whether we needed time in his room or my room or split it in 2. If the kids were working in his room, he would send a team up to my room and I would say, now, how's this team project going? And we went through the characteristics of what makes a good team. What does it mean when you have consensus? What happens if one of your teammates isn't doing their share? They would share that with me. I mean, we had some.
Before we go forward, I have to say, you have to teach us this first.
We have
Just stop the presses right now. What do you do when a team member is not doing their work? Because everybody needs to know this right now.
Well, it is not an easy process. It takes a lot of communication. And what I would say to the kids to make them completely understand is that, now picture all the magnet teachers and all their different personalities. And I'm their team leader and I all have to get them to work together. Do you think that's easy? And they would all start laughing because they would be thinking about this teacher working with that teacher.
On that topic, I saw one of these journals, as we called them, fly across the room from another teacher that says, journals, what do we need these for? And keeping a record of a team project is something that we started in the ninth grade. Ninth grade, and they had it, and they had a journal, and it was a daily journal. And what did you do? What did your teammates do? And that journal, which was consistent through the research courses, the science courses, the computer science courses, was really the document that I used, and I'm sure Eileen used, to say, all right, well, let's everybody open up your journals and let's see what you've written down for what you did that day. And some of the kids were very comprehensive, and those are the students that are leading the group on their charge through the problem solving. And then there's the students that I talked to George. And that's all they put. As we met with the teams and we counseled them about, well, who's not doing their work, it really came down to the journal entries as proof in the pudding that, well, I think you ought to start doing a little bit more, or at least recording what your contributions are to the team.
Did students fail out sometimes? How would that happen?
I don't think we had any fail out. We had some kids who would come in ninth grade and decide it wasn't for them and wanted to go back to their home school. So usually it happened early. We learned early on that we could not expect a junior starting in their junior year to do a research project if we started teaching them those skills then. It had to start in ninth grade, like Mark said. In ninth grade, they would have journals. They would start doing this. In 10th grade, we would add on other things. 11th grade, we would add on other things. But that took a lot of time of teachers sitting down and arguing positively about what should be included and what doesn't, because everybody learns differently.
How did you pick teachers? What qualities were you looking for? How did that happen?
Well, in order to hire somebody in Montgomery County, you've got to go through the system. You can't just pick somebody off the street and say, hey, you're a good idea. There were a couple of people that worked at central office who were familiar with the program. They would call me up and say, Eileen, I have a candidate, a new teacher. I think this person would be good for your program. And then we'd interview people and they would say, well, you mean some of the time the kids stay after school because they're excited about something and you expect us to be with them? Yes. I mean, we had all kinds of clubs the teachers sponsored. They weren't paid extra for that. But working with these kind of kids, you just got excited along with them. I have some women who are now working for NASA. One is in charge of a Mars rover. One worked with the telescopes. I mean, it's just exciting for me to know that some earth science has rubbed off on these kids and they are doing exciting things. And that's the kind of person you wanted to find, somebody who was excited about their discipline and wasn't afraid to ask questions and to challenge what we did. Say, why do you do this?
So the problem I see is that teachers today have so much paperwork, have no planning time, and are regimented by their pacing guides to a point where I personally, if I had to teach in K-12 education, I would not be able to do it because I don't follow those things.
I agree. I mean, I don't know if it's true. I mean, obviously we still have friends who are teaching in parts of the system where they kind of expect people to be in the same place on the same day. And you can't do that because it has to depend on your students. And in science, what if there was a major earthquake or something happened? I could stop my course and say, let's talk about what's happening now. You know what I mean? That's what, to me, that education is.
Mark?
At the beginning, I was invited to go look at teachers teach. My assistant principal, the magnet coordinator at Poolsville for all the magnets was Billy Bradshaw. And she would, through the grapevine or through other teacher contacts, because she came up through the ranks as I did, we would hear of a teacher that was exciting, was having a good time. And a couple of them I got to go see and watch him manage a classroom.
You just go there?
Yep. I would, we'd have to make an appointment, have to tell the principal, tell them that we're coming to steal your good teacher.
And the principal will be okay with that?
And I guess they were. I mean, because they let me in. I personally believe it was because I spent so much time with the vice principal and the principal discussing and demonstrating what we could do with these children that we were getting into the program. And they knew or they saw that you needed a different type of teacher. You need someone that wasn't afraid to have, I spent hundreds of hours in Eileen's classroom. She spent hundreds of hours in my classroom when we were the 10th grade team.
Can you talk a little bit about the extra resources that were needed to do this? And, equipment and space, but also, most importantly, teaching load. Because that is the biggest resource. If they're in class more, they are planning, collaborating, thinking, learning less.
When we came to Blair, we had the money to refit the industrial arts classroom into Mark's R&E room, where there were robots and all kinds of other equipment that you don't typically find.
R&E is research and engineering. Right?
Research and experimentation.
Okay, good. All right, go ahead.
We also had an analytical chemistry lab where we had sophisticated equipment. Sometimes we would go and get older equipment from NIH that they didn't want, but we could use. Plus, teachers had time. Even though maybe one day I would teach 8 periods, another day I would teach 4. So you had that time to go into somebody else's classroom, like you said, the teachers don't have today. And we had an 8-period day so that we could do that. You would block schedule the classes so they would meet together. You'd had the physics and the R&E, the earth science, the chemistry and the R&E.
But why is 8 periods significant? Because the rest of the school has 7?
Yes.
So you have extra school time?
Yes. The magnet buses came later than the other buses.
So that is a huge difference.
Correct.
Yeah. Oh,
now,
absolutely. It also allowed for the blocking.
Did teachers in the magnet programs have to teach one less class than teachers outside the magnet programs?
Well, like I said, one day maybe I taught 8, which is against the contract and everything else, but it really evens out eventually. Plus, we did all those other extra things like the FIS conference and all the all the clubs the teachers sponsored. And we taught summer classes for middle school kids that come to Blair for a couple of weeks.
This kind of commitment to the subject matter, to teaching itself, how do you scale this up to really bring this same experience? I'm not sure it's doable. So you self-select into it, and then you do it or not do it. You can't have a contract, a union contract that provides for this.
Right. I know. It's a good question. That what makes me wonder about what these programs are going to be. We were just not a high level course. It sits by itself. It's all this interaction. And how do you upscale that? It's a good question.
At PHS, as we were selecting, well, we're going to take a teacher from within Poolsville to work in your program. And sometimes that didn't work out. Excellent master teacher, content, just wonderful teacher. But they did not want to collaborate about, no, I have my content. No, I'm not going to give up any time. I have too much to do.
MCPS's official position is that what is taught in magnet programs is the same as what is taught in homeschools. I have not ever believed that, bought it, but I have always wondered how this problem was resolved. How did you rationalize the curriculum such that you could move faster or go in depth or talk about that earthquake? Because right now, pacing guides are the king and queen of time.
Well, what we started with, and this was actually written about in the New York Times, because in the 9th grade, our students took physics first semester, just a semester, second semester chemistry. But both of those periods were back with the R&E class. So because the teachers know what's taught in 9th grade physics, when you go to chemistry, it becomes a different course because you can rely on the laws of physics that relate to chemistry. So those teachers had to know. So as a teacher in a regular school, I mean, the kids would say, well, we never learned that. And I don't know if they learned it in another period, but I did know that in the magnet, because I know what they were taught in 9th grade and what they were taught in physics and chemistry. So that becomes a different earth science course, which was the first semester, 10th grade.
What from your earth science course did you take out because they had it before in physics?
It's just a different way of presenting things. Originally, people say, why did you start out with biology in high school and then chemistry and then physics? You know what the answer is? It's alphabetical. I've read it, many resources that's the reason why they did it. So biology was a descriptive course where you memorized phylums and blah, blah, blah. You didn't look at any biochemistry or genetics or any of that.
This is my frustration with the MCPS official position. It's biochem physics. It puts physics at the crown of that 3-year experience. And by then, the plot is lost. Because if you did physics, chemistry, earth science one side, and physics, chemistry, bio on the other side, then you would actually be able to integrate. Any ecological study should follow the fundamental, because ecology is integrated.
And that's what our electives were. Like I said, I had an elective in climatology even before people would talk about climate.
Mark, you said that you spent time going over curriculum, taking out repetitions.
In geometry, they got to truth tables and ors and nots, and that's part of computer science. All of the different topics that they were using in computer science that were based off of something they learned in geometry, and now we can build an electronic circuit that solves the word problem that was created in computer science using the knowledge from geometry in an engineering class.
One of the things I think reflects MCPS's choice of the sequence, which is biology, chemistry, physics, rather than physics, chemistry, biology. Is math education. I think what they are afraid of is that in 9th grade, if you have students take physics, that their math is not good. And the way that you solve that math problem is to only take students into the program that are proficient in math, not just proficient, perhaps even at the, top 3 percentile.
Yeah, I mean, all of our students had to have completed algebra by the end of 8th grade. Some had completed geometry.
There used to be a gifted and talented office in the central office. That was renamed and then eventually dismantled. I'm wondering to what extent losing that kind of central office formal institutional support has had an impact on the way the magnet programs have been run over the last 10 years.
I think it probably has. I mean, we were very fortunate. Dr. Wave Starnes, I don't know if you remember that name. She was the head of that for a long time, and she was a champion of students and the needs that some students at the upper end have. In some states, gifted and talented is under special education.
If you were talking to folks that are now redesigning, reorganizing the magnet programs, what advice would you have?
We feel very fortunate and that in 1985, the county gave us the ability to create a program and they were confident and trusted us to do that. I think that teachers today don't feel that trust and confidence is given to them by many people in the system.
I was very fortunate to have the central office support. I would try to host a meeting every year at the gifted and talented office. I would meet with the coordinator as well as the coordinator of the Blair program and bring along a teacher or two.
So is your recommendation, Mark, that they recreate the gifted and talented office?
Yeah.
Sometimes I think people think that only the brightest kids can do these kinds of things, but that's not true. It's the way that you look at education and the way that our brain works, that if you bring up a subject and put it in the same thing into your brain from different places, it sticks rather than just one time hearing something. But if you can relate it to something else and then you do something and the same concept is there, that's when you start learning and taking in that information.
When we opened the Poolsville Magnet, all of the other programs had been selected. All of the students were told who was going to Blair, who's going to the IB, who's that. And they said, here's your pool, Mark, pick some kids, out of the pool. And so all the other programs were full. Not that these were not deserving students, but I could use a math score that probably should be off the record, that the highest math score that we got to look at was 50 in the particular test was like 54. Blair didn't accept anybody under 93. And the beginning students that I looked at to bring into the program, their score was like 53. And we knew that as we do it. But you know what? Those students, by the end of the process of the program, were as successful as the students that could have had higher scores. I mean, we never got to the level of, the number of awards that Montgomery Blair has, but the students went through the process and were very successful and got into the college of their choice, because that was big for the parents, college of choice.
Yeah.
Mark Curran, Eileen Steinkraus, thank you for all your work over the decades. Thank you for taking the time to explain it. And I hope MCPS will call you to ask your opinions.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you very much to get me all excited all over again.
That's all for this episode of I Hate Politics, where we aim to stem the decline in local news by working with community voices. Don't forget to tune in to our Tuesday morning news analysis. I Hate Politics is produced by me, Sunil Dasgupta, with support from the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. I direct UMBC's political science program at the universities at Shady Grove in Montgomery County, where, among other things, we explore and learn about politics, government, and society close to home. Music for this episode comes from Drew Pictures and the Lead Extras, an indie pop rock band based in Rockville, Maryland. Andrew Glore on vocals and keys, Brian Wolf on guitar, and Josh Wilson on drums. The songs come from their album Cats on Santorini. You can find their music at drewpicturesmusic.com. If you want to share your music on the show or know someone else who might want to, please email us at producer@ihppod.org. I hope you'll subscribe and share the podcast as we bring you stories about politics close to you and to your home. See you next time.
I'm your mirror, mirror.